Greetings, folks. Euler here. Wargaming has rolled out the details of Update 097 to the World of Warships website. I'm going to do a relatively quick walkthrough of the article here. I will encourage everyone to read the article, especially since there's some details to particular ships and other parts of the game that will be of more interest to some players than to others. Plus, there are some specifics like around time zones and so forth that will be particular to you that you'll need to check out. Speaking of which, the rollout for most of the world will be tomorrow, Wednesday, August 5th. This happens to show the time for where I am here on the west coast of North America. This is 3 a.m. Pacific time. Again, check the article for when this will get rolled out for your local time. There's a link to the video featuring Dasha, so you can go check that out. There is a brief summary of the German Carrier Part 2 event, which I covered in detail in yesterday's video. I'm not going to repeat that here, or at least I'm going to repeat as little as I can. Go check out that video, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. Again, just a reminder that all of the Tech Tree German carriers will now be available for players to research, and that we have rewards that have a chance to win one of 4 German ships, the Pommern, the Mainz, the Z-39, and the Hipper. Again, there's a link to that article that I covered yesterday to go into those details. The port of Hamburg has been updated, so they get some visual changes. There is a reminder that the German tokens, which we were earning in 096, which we will stop earning basically as of today before 097 gets rolled out, they will be exchangeable in the Armory until September 2nd. Again, check your local time. If you don't exchange them, they will be exchanged for credits at a rate of 1 for 9,000 credits for anything that you don't spend. Rank Sprint is coming. This will be between August 21st and the 31st. This will be a 3 versus 3 format, tier 9 ships, some mentions of a few of the rewards and the maps that will be involved, and these will all be reduced combat areas. And then there's a point here that all the details will be published in a dedicated article. So if you're going to be playing Rank Sprint, make sure to take a look out for that. An important usability change, which I did cover in a development blog update a couple 3 weeks ago, we will now be able to set the order of consumables on our ships. This has been a very long-standing usability request from the user base for literally years, so it's very good to see that this has now been added. This will be configurable for each ship individually, and the changes will be saved to the server so that if you happen to play your same account on multiple machines, your preferences will be saved and you won't have to reconfigure them for each machine individually. Another important update is changes to unique upgrades. And again, this is going to be a place where I'm going to recommend folks read through this in detail. Some of these are going to be more important for some players than for others. I also did cover this in a development blog video 2 or 3 weeks ago when this was originally announced. We are getting new upgrades for the Daring, Kleber, Haragumo, Kremlin, Audacious, Midway, and Hakuryu. These are all purchasable in the Armory for research points, 19,200 Research Bureau points each. There are details here if you open up the subsection for what each of these do. Again, read through these in detail. These look like these have not changed from what was announced in the development blog based on what I could see. There are some very important considerations. For example, the Darings upgrade goes into the 5th slot. That means giving up concealment, but in exchange you get faster reloading torpedoes and longer range torpedoes. The Kleber has this very unique characteristic where it basically completely nukes the main battery reload time, almost doubles it, but you get a substantial increase or improvement, I should say, in your concealment to basically turn yourself into a very fast ambush torpedo ship. Again, I'm not going to go through these in all the detail, excuse me, but the point is that these are all intended to be side grades to encourage a particular play style. So read through these if you play these ships and might be interested in picking up one of these upgrades. Wargaming has also updated a number of existing upgrades to the Z-52, the Grozovoi, the Moskva, the Minotaur, the Zao, and the Yamato. So again, read through these. Based on what I could tell, these upgrades have not changed from what was announced in the article from 2 or 3 weeks ago on the development blog. The naval base excuse me, the naval base has also been changed. For those of you in clans that manage your naval bases, this will be important information to follow. In fact, there's a separate dedicated article which I'm not going to go into here, but again, for those of you who are involved in naval base management, will want to read through this. There will be some improvements to the treasury to allow clan leaders to regularly exchange oil for clan rewards. Not sure exactly how that will work. Again, read this article, will go into that detail. The research center is being renamed the War College. There is a new building called the Research Institute, and this will allow clan members to receive bonuses on research points that are picked up. So that's kind of a nice little perk. And then the third point here is that there's some visual changes to increase the number of ships in port based on the activity of the clan. Next update pertains to the Armory. There's actually several updates here. First point is that there are 2 new combat signals, the X-Ray Papa Uni 1 and the Sierra Bravo. Again, these were both announced in the development blog 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. I did cover that in a separate video. The X-Ray Papa Uni 1 increases the action time of the smoke generator by 15%. That means how long the smoke is deployed for, so you can lay a longer line of smoke. It does not change the duration, how long the smoke sticks around. The second one is Sierra Bravo. This will increase the action time of hydroacoustic search by 10% and reduce the cooldown on defensive AA fire by 10%. So almost a must-have certainly for competitive play among cruisers. Likely very useful on a lot of destroyers and even some battleships. It says Wargaming says here that these signals will be added to the daily containers at a later point in time. So take look out for that. Mouse is not behaving well. I'm not sure why. Okay, let's see. Next item is the Pommern will be available in the Armory for 228,000 coal. We will also be able to purchase her for doubloons in the premium shop. There will also be some bundles in the premium shop that you can buy. There's a mention of that later here in the article as well. Again, there is also a chance to win the Pommern in a container, in the German Navy container or in one of the Kriegsmarine containers. Again, I covered that in yesterday's video, so I'm not going to rehash too much of that here, but the point is the Pommern is available. And then also available is the premium Tier 6 German aircraft carrier, the Erich Löwenhardt, and this will be available for exchange for doubloons. And she will have HE bombs and longer range but slower torpedoes. So slightly different characteristics to her peers, but a Tier 6 premium if for those of you who like to play carriers. And then the Slava. This has been a long-standing boat with a lot of controversy and history, is now going to become available for 63,000 research points. This is a Tier 10 special ship. She's sort of a glass cannon. She has 25mm extremities. She has very accurate, very high penetration AP shells, so expect to see her out on the seas as well. And then the last item we have here under the Armory is that Andrew Cunningham, which is the British historical commander, will now be available in the Armory for 175,000 coal. This is consistent with other historical commanders that have been, they've been adding to the Armory as well. And then also just a kind reminder from Wargaming that the Pommern and the Erich Löwenhardt can also be purchased in the premium shop for real currency. All right, last major section is other changes. As I mentioned earlier, this often can include important changes for folks to consider, so you should read through this and not gloss over it, because there may be some things in here that you care about. So balance changes refers to basically buffs and nerfs to ships and some mechanics changes to existing ships. So the first item is that all carriers now will have a horizontal reticle or crosshair for their rocket attacks. This will provide a sort of a consistent attack vector for rockets for all ships. I think this is, well, Wargaming didn't say this explicitly, but I suspect this is for destroyers to know how the rockets will typically approach them, and that being, you know, sort of bow or stern on at least try to turn that way, will minimize the number of rockets that might hit you. And then the next update is all of the tech tree. U.S. Navy destroyers tier 5 through tier 10, their defensive AA fire consumable is getting buffed from a plus 75% damage increase to a plus 100% damage increase. The Venezia is getting a nerf to her reload and to her rudder shift. The Jutland is getting a nerf to her guns. The Colorado, Nagato, Buffalo, San Luis, Ibuki, Dane, Duque, Truyon, the Karlsruhe, Kuma, Svetlana, and Phoenix. So this entire section here basically says that consumables that normally have historically not been on their available to their stock holes are now going to be available to their stock holes. And again, I don't think anybody's going to protest that change. And then the last item here is the Richelieu. Yeah, I guess I think this is just sort of a consistency thing. They're swapping the order of the consumables between the engine boost and the fighter aircraft. But again, from the mention above, you are now going to be able to configure which consumables go into which slots anyway. So you get to set it however you want. So again, some balance changes, nothing too dramatic. Probably the most important one here is really the change to how the rocket attack vectors for the carriers. Content addition and changes. The Blazing Tropics permanent camouflage, which I touched on in an article again a couple of weeks ago from the development blog, is now available. It doesn't say here how to obtain these will be announced. They said that those details will be published later. So the Blazing Tropics camo, there will be an expendable or new expendable summer camouflage, and then 9 new patches will be available. So wait for details on how those will become available. Another interesting item is the upcoming U.S. Navy battleship line split, or at least the ships that are part of that, the USS Kansas, Minnesota, and Vermont, as well as the upcoming premium USS Florida, and then the the notorious Kitakami are all coming to 097 for testers and community contributors to test in. So we might start seeing these in random battles. We shall see. And then the last item here, other changes tend to be mostly around like visual corrections and bug fixes, but there is actually an important item here for those of you who are doing researching carriers. So Wargaming has now normalized the XP required to research each tier of carriers across the nations. So the tier 6 carriers will now require 40,000 XP compared to what it used to be 68,000. So they will be easier to research. There's been a slight increase in the research points required, or the XP required to research the tier 8. And then there's been a somewhat larger increase in the XP required to research the tier 10. Now, what Wargaming will do is if you already have researched the tier 6, but not researched the tier 8, they will credit you 28,000 XP, which is the difference between the 60,000 and the 40,000 for the tier 4. They will credit you the 28,000 and apply it to the tier 6. Now, if you already have researched the tier 8 carrier, they will take the 25,000 difference. That's basically between the tier 4 and the tier, basically the 28,000 here minus the 3,000 difference here, and they will apply that 25,000 XP to the tier 8 ship to help you research the tier 10. And it says if you haven't already researched the tier 10. It doesn't say anything that if you have all of these ships, whether they're going to credit you any XP on anything. So it's not specific on that point, but at least for folks, that are sort of going through the research grind, they will get likely some credit. And then, as I mentioned here, the rest of these are mainly bug fixes and some graphics or visual changes to a variety of ships. I thought one that was kind of interesting here was they fixed an error that allowed the Siegfried to be sold. So if you sold your Siegfried, you probably should just file a ticket with Wargaming to get that reinstated. All right, so I think that's the article. I know I went through this pretty quickly, but there is obviously a lot of detail here, as they often do. The videos from Dasha are visually nice, but they are pretty lightweight in terms of the information. So I always encourage folks to go read these articles. Again, I'll leave a link to the article in the description below. I hope the information here was useful and interesting. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will look to answer them or get us to a resource that can. Otherwise, thanks much for watching. We hope to see you out there on the virtual seas, and we wish you happy sailing.